Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. I'm Lynell Gordon with How We Grow, the Vacation Rental Show, and I have a couple of guests that are really phenomenal. I'm going to introduce Valerie Budd, who's on my left. Valerie is the CEO of Branson. And she's going to share some tips with you, but she's brought a very special guest.
And we have Jessica, who's been with us for 8 years.
That's awesome.
And she knows so much about the industry, and she's just so knowledgeable. I thought this makes sense to bring her.
And we could have done 2 different podcasts, and I thought about that. I'm happy to do that. But they really enjoyed talking with each other because they work together. So it's a really great, team you've got here.
We do have a great team.
So what I want to ask you is this. We're talking to property managers who want to grow their business. And so what are the top tips that you give to people about doing that?
Well, let me back up a little bit on our history. So we started off in 2005. We bought our first property. It was one. And we did really well with it. And then my neighbors started saying, Valerie, you're doing so well. Will you rent mine? And at that point, I said no.
Oh, well, we don't know.
Anyways, so spin it forward. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, we ended up having about 50 properties, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sustaining quite well. And then we grew dramatically. We now have over 250. We're on target to have 300. So scaling was the S word. It was really challenging, but it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
We had stuff that we'd look at each other and think, okay, how we get through this? Because we didn't have processes in places that we needed.
Right.
So, and that's why I wanted to bring Jessie, because she was our first employee, or one of our first ones besides housekeeping. And she literally, when I hired her, I gave her a computer and then I got a plane and left.
Really?
She abandoned me.
So scaling's been really an interesting thing, and it's so important. So now we obviously are doing things so differently than when we only had, one employee and all the properties.
So tell me how you did that. Tell me the most important things that people have to think about when they scale the percentages that you scaled. What kind of processes do people need to think about to
the
scale
cool
like
thing
that?
was, and I mean this sincerely, not that I'm just at a Streamline event, but what happened was I knew I needed another software. So I went out and went to the conferences and went and looked at 4 different companies, and we chose Streamline. This was back in the day when they weren't nearly like what they are. So we went with them, and that's where I onboarded Streamline at the same time as onboarded Jessie, I guess you would say, which was really great. So we learned the system together.
So that became your project?
That was my first thing, actually. We actually were going back and looking through reservations yesterday. And the first reservation was one that I had transferred from our old software. It was just such a flashback.
Wow.
So software was really important. And then that's when you start putting systems in places. But things that we ran into, big issues, were communication with our team. We would just text feed. Okay. Add 250 properties and 40 employees, you can't do the text feed anymore.
No.
You've got to go to the next level. And that was really a big challenge. How do we migrate to that new system, and how do we do it effectively?
Right. So I guess the first thing you're saying is that for that kind of scalability and growth, you have to have a really great basic property management system. Streamline is, we're at Streamline conference, guys. That's where I'm recording at this point today. That's where I'm recording a bunch of podcasts. And I'm just telling you, we have some really smart people here, and I'm taking complete advantage of it. So having a really good property management system that will allow you to scale to that level is important, right?
It's very important.
And having one that's forward thinking too. It's not always just about the technology that they have at that moment or people in the company. And we love Carlos and Segre. We've been great friends with them for a long time. They're forward thinkers.
Yeah, they are.
And when we're looking at products and technology, that's what we're looking for. Not obviously the tech part of it's important.
Culture within our company is that connection that we all have with each other. So yes, you're growing, but at the same time, you need to keep that communication within your core team.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have trouble delegating.
I did my thing.
No, not anymore.
It's actually really wonderful.
So how important is delegation to growth?
Oh, it's 100% important.
Okay.
100%. And the first time you do it, it's really hard, but then after you start doing it, it's so easy.
It's freeing. So, tell me about the growth that you've walked through with the company.
Mhm.
What kind of things would you suggest to companies that are growing to put into place that'll help them with the scalability?
I think the first thing Valerie alluded to it earlier is we have a very collaborative team. You're not going to know what you need if you're not talking to the people on your front lines. When we onboarded Breezeway right now, and when we onboarded them, there was so much of, okay, what do you love about this app? What do you not like? Getting that communication and feedback back from them so that we could tweak it to make those processes work. That was so important for us. But I think as we got that down, we really started putting things on paper. And that was so important for training for future employees. I mean, training manual sounds so basic, but we didn't have it. Like it was just me, and we had our reservation manager who's with us now. She's wonderful, but like it was the two of us, and we were yin and yang, and we just did our thing. And we started hiring new people. It's like, I don't have something on paper to give you. I can download my brain into yours, but starting to put those things on paper after you've got those processes down is really important as well.
And now you can put it in Chat GPT, guys.
Right.
Yes.
We do that a lot. But
Yeah,
getting
absolutely.
back to what the paper part she was saying, or just documenting, that would get one of the questions we had discussed earlier is that's probably one thing I would have done differently in the very beginning was documented more of the processes, because we
Have it more
literally had to
clear.
go backwards and start all over again.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of time as you're growing a company,
Yeah.
which is really challenging. Now, one thing you brought up, which is interesting, Breezeway. We first tried it and we didn't like it.
Not
It
at
didn't
all.
fit our needs. So we said no, we canceled the subscription.
That was when we were at like 50 properties.
And
or
then
so.
a year later, holy moly, and now we love it. So one thing I would really suggest to people is if you don't like something in the beginning, go revisit it. Don't be scared, because you may have changed your mindset and your systems as
I'll
well.
just check it off. Go back to it.
Really, really important.
So if you were to look back and say, all right, during this growth, this very, very fast growth, here are the things that looking over my shoulder, I might say, I wished I had done X, Y, Z differently. Or maybe, on your end, I wished I had done something sooner or differently. What kinds of things would you suggest to people?
The documentation, I think, is probably one of the biggest things, because our HR person now is building, our employee handbook. He's already done that, thank goodness. And just going forward, time's up, because again, we were on that very close knit that if someone wanted to use a lot of the properties we owned in the beginning, and we still do, but not to this magnitude.
Right.
And we would just say, oh, you want to use it? Sure, go ahead. We didn't have the protocols in place. So what I would really suggest is set protocols as you're starting it, because don't think of the property as you having 50. Think of it, okay, I've got 500. No, we're not, don't worry. That wasn't so literal. But we've got X amount of properties. Think of it in terms of that so that you can go ahead and scale. So every software system that we're buying right now, even our revenue management now, how scalable is it? What can we do with it? But then again, trying to keep that intimacy is just really important so that our owners still can reach out to us and connect with us.
Yeah, I think that the documentation is a big part of it. And then scalability is a really big term that we've used over the past few years.
You've had to.
Yes, absolutely. Well, just saying it and like putting that in your team's minds. Like anytime anybody would say, well, I'm just going to do it this way. Well, is that scalable? Like, are we
Right.
going to be able to do that in 3 years? And just putting that on your team's mind and changing their mindset
Yeah.
was really, really important for us. One concrete example that I can think of was for our homeowner onboarding. It was very basic. Like Valerie or I were talking to the homeowners by ourselves. We have an owner acquisition team, which is wonderful, but Valerie would get it and then get the information to me, and I would put it in the system. And now there's 5 or 6 people involved in that process. So we ended up implementing, we use Monday. I know Streamline has a great acquisition tool and lots of other people
They have
do
a
as
brand
well.
new stuff. It's
Yes, I'm
really
excited
cool.
to see
They
it.
have cool stuff coming out.
We use Monday currently. That was just a great fit for us at the time.
Sure.
And just having like the checklists and the different things like that you don't think you need when you have 50 properties, just trying to look forward and is that scalable was a huge question for us.
And the other thing is we gave all our employees phones in the beginning, just because being transparent, if the employee leaves, we want that phone number still, but it wasn't scalable. And there's a problem if your maintenance people keep losing their phones and things like that. So we're now using Ring Central, and we have apps with phone numbers on it so that we can pull it back very easily.
I love their stuff. I do. I'm just saying.
So it's been really
Yeah.
helpful. The other thing, and you don't really think about this, is the space. So the first space that and Jesse worked out of it was
the first office space. I worked at my bedroom originally.
we had our laundry at our house too, believe it or
yes,
not.
we did.
But it's old school. But the office that you worked out of, how big was that office space at Tall Pines?
It was about the size of a walk-in closet.
Yeah.
It was a little bitty thing.
So, and then we grew and grew, and that's something you've got to consider. And that unfortunately, the building that we've taken over, we kept expanding from size, but that was really important because you technically to move it would be so much more work.
Yeah.
So wherever you do launch, and I was an advocate of actually having space, but for our reservation team and our management team, it's really important to have a space that they can go to, that we have our Monday meetings.
Yeah.
Again, that connection constantly. We can be virtual to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
but it is really important to have our Monday morning meetings with all of the main management.
We have a really collaborative team. I think at the end of the day, if everything falls apart, technology breaks, processes have flaws, but at the end of the day, if you have somebody that you can call and say, hey, this is broke, 911, I need you to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the kind of team that Valerie's built and that we've built. So I think that's what our scalability has really boiled down to, has been our team and having those, trying to find the right fit for them too. This is something that we've learned the hard ways. We've hired people and put them in a position and they weren't great at it. It didn't work. And instead of just, terminating that relationship, we would sit down with them and say, hey, this might not be your strength. Where can we pivot you? Where can we move you to where your strengths are going to shine and you can continue to have a great relationship with the company?
That's really important in business period, guys. So if you think about scaling your business, the people that you hire are such a huge part of it. And you had a very good hire here. And obviously she's helping you manage the rest of it as well, because as she talks, the thing that you notice about companies that are successful is you have an employee here talking, but she's like, we.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you've given her the trust and the delegation
And authority.
to be able to have that and feel that way. So obviously, that she owns it, so she's owning that part of what she does.
And it's really cool because even our housekeeping manager, she has the same attitude. Robert, our maintenance manager, it's the same attitude. And our owner's relations manager, man, oh man, if I could get 3 more of her, she just works constantly.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com.
So you fostered that. So guys, if you want to learn how to build a team, I think you should think about reaching out. Valerie, could people reach out to you if they have questions?
Of course they can.
So guys, if you want to know how to build a great team and you want to learn how to scale off the chart, you have a mentor here. You have someone who has done it, who is very willing to help you in your business.
It's been a lot of fun too. I mean, it really has. We have those moments that, you just think, really? is this guest doing this or is this owner doing this? And
We
you just-
literally have a book for it
Mhm.
that sits in our office that we write down all of the crazy stuff.
Okay, I got to hear. Okay, you have to tell me your 2 favorite stories then. You've got a book.
Can I really kind of
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So this was actually, Jessie was on board. It was one of her first calls she took, and a guest called.
Now, mind you, I was 17 when I came to work.
I had to
for
call her parents.
I was
to
very
get
green.
approval to go to the first conference.
Oh my goodness.
That-
Yeah, so that I was very green. Sorry, go ahead.
But it was, but I mean, so you wouldn't have known this. though,
Yeah,
before,
I
did
had,
it?
had no concept.
So the guest calls and said, "There's a cockroach. I need someone here immediately."
And we have log cabins too. So
And it's in the woods. So it's
Yes.
not like it's a city. It's in the woods, and bugs are bugs, and it could happen. All right.
Of course.
So of course we want to take care of the guests. Our maintenance manager goes and knocks on the door. "Ma'am, where's this bug?" And she goes, "Oh, it's by my tire right there.
It's outside?
It's outside."
outside on her windshield is the picture that we got later afterwards. So
But the point is that, I mean, really, to the guests, you know, we had one guest that also decided to go in the attic and string up Christmas lights on the outside of the house.
What?
I have no idea why.
What? How long did they rent it for?
it wasn't very
No, like a
long.
weekend.
Yeah.
A weekend.
Okay.
And this was before, because in our year, we have to have Christmas lights up by middle of October. This was like 1st of October. So it wasn't like we were behind the 8 ball.
Okay.
Yeah. One that comes to mind that taught me to ask questions. You know, that was 7 a.m. in the morning. I called the maintenance manager. I was like, "You have to go like right now." And he called me. He's like, "Really? Really?" So another instance that comes to mind is I worked on property for a while. So my office was one of our resorts that we had. And I had a guest. She was a very elderly lady, and we had just installed electronic locks. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and she was not able to get in. She was having an issue. And so I'm repeating her door code back to her. I can hear her typing in the number, and she's not working. Okay,
Sure.
you know, it's fine. I'm gonna come help you.
Right.
Like it's 2 minutes away.
Right.
So I go down there, and I'm watching what she's doing, and she's typing the numbers and telling me different numbers than what she's actually typing onto a keypad. And
Poor
it
thing.
was like,
Poor
I
thing.
know, poor thing. She was so embarrassed, but just ask questions.
No, you do. For
So-
sure. For sure. It's so funny. So this morning we are in the hallway. I was coming down to do we're in a really cool room. We're in the Phoenician Hotel. This is a really ritzy kind of place. So we were walking there. My sister, who is property manager, she owns Hobbs Realty at Golden Beach. So we're walking down and we're saying hi to people, and there's a cockroach literally on the floor. And
And it was inside.
it was inside. And we had a group of people in the hall, and there was a cockroach, and someone said, "What is that?" And my sister, who is very witty, she just looks down. She says, "Oh, we brought that with us from North Carolina." I just, you get so used to dealing with these things as a property manager for these many years. It
You're
flies right over the top of your head. So I'll bet now someone calls and they're like, "I see a cockroach." You're like,
Is it inside or outside?
There's a question. Is it inside or is it outside? If it's inside, did you bring it with you? I'm just saying. Is there anything else you'd like to say or any advice you'd like to give? I want to offer that to you if there's something.
The thing is, with homeowners, for example, some we all know some are really great and some are quite a challenge. And some you just have to let go. So we have not had to do this before, but now that we've grown to the point that we have, we are now having, the list is called thin ice.
Mm-hmm.
And these owners, not because of us being on thin ice, but we put them on thin ice, and we're going to review them and see about getting rid of them because they're sucker fish. And
Yeah.
you have to look at the revenue. You have to look at their how many people they've referred or their connections to your other owners. But that's really important. And it's hard to do, especially when you're in such an acquisition mode that you want to go ahead and say, yes, I'll take them all. But sometimes you just got to say no.
We have some companies. There are companies that I've spoken to who create a list like Thin Ice. And then each year, as a reward to their reservationist or to their staff, they're allowed to vote one off the island.
But what
It's kind of like in the 40 days.
For real, they do.
I love it.
So some people have things like that. When you get to the place that when it takes more time than the revenue is worth, I like the fact that you're sitting and putting it on paper. Who do they know? Socially, how is this going to affect me? Financially, how's it going to affect me?
Because there's such a ripple effect.
Oh,
and
yes.
I know that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we've got some of those owners that their ripple is going to be so big that we now say, how high do you want us to jump? I mean, we don't say that to them, but we all know.
We know who they are.
Yeah.
We do.
We all do. And another thing that some companies do in that situation, Valerie, is they will take whoever's the best communicator. Normally it's the owners of the company, someone that has worked like you for a long time in there, and they'll sit down with the property manager, with the owner, and they'll say, look, our staff, we're having an issue because of X, Y, Z. We'd really like to work that out with you. What can we do to make this a better situation? And that communication also has saved many an owner in that way.
And we also have found, especially with one owner, it's better for us to rotate this person around, even though we all communicate.
Absolutely.
But after a couple of years, I worked with him for a while, and then Jesse worked with him for a while, and now somebody else is. It just is fresh, it's new, and it's been working.
That's a very good strategy too. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't heard of that one. That's an excellent strategy. We used to do that at the tech company where I found it. We had some property managers that were challenging. And
No.
no, occasionally, because most of them, honestly, I'm going to be real honest, most of them are phenomenal. You're used to dealing with people. You're nice. You're just really nice people. But occasionally you come across one who's not. And we did the same thing. I didn't allow my staff to talk to the property manager. Only I could talk to the property manager. And then only my partner could talk to the property manager. And then that didn't work. So,
But to be in this space, it's interesting because my husband and I used to always, do dinner parties with our friends, and we hosted. And this was probably about 10 years before I started this business. Was one of our friends said, you and Rob both have the gift of hospitality.
how nice.
And we never really thought about it. And now look at the industry we're doing.
How
I mean, but I think you have to do
I think
this,
you
to
do.
be able to take everything and, okay, you're absolutely right. Let me do this for you.
Or you have to hire people that have that.
Right.
Because I know some property managers who are, their backgrounds maybe in certified public accounting, or maybe they're technologists. A lot of those people come into the business and then they hire that front end person to talk because they don't have
You
it.
definitely need that.
You
type
have
of
to have
skill
it.
set in there.
You have to have it because you have to deal with guests and owners. And
I got to say, the property managers at the conferences, I was out in corporate America before I did what I was doing and do now. And I was shocked on how awesome the property managers were. When we started off, when I had like 20 or 30 properties, they would give me their contracts. If they hired an attorney, I was flabbergasted. I mean, they were just willing to say, here it is.
I know.
So, pay
Yeah.
it forward, pay it backwards, keep doing it over and over
Exactly.
again. It's an amazing industry.
It is. And that's what this show is about. It's really creating a group of mentorships because that's really what we need when we're growing a business. Even if we've been in business a really long time, sometimes we forget, those basic principles. Like I was interviewing someone earlier today, and their gift to this world is revenue generation. And he can sit down with any property manager and he can share with them, here are the ways that you generate revenue. Here are the ways that you can get. And he is very successful. And I mean, his profit margins are.
That's amazing.
So he's, being able to have people that are very good at marketing, or like you, people that excel in scalability and growth. Having those people around a table and being able to, I always love the round tables. Draw on that.
I do too. I remember my first couple conferences I would go because I was reservations, I was maintenance, I was housekeeping, scheduling, I was everything.
I've been there, done that.
And I would sit in the back of the room because I knew if my phone rang, I had to go out and answer it. And I would see all these other people. I'm like, how are they doing this?
Team.
And it's so funny
The
to see
team.
now we're bringing how many people to these conferences. So
I
pretty
love
cool.
that. thank you for sharing. Thank
Oh,
you, guys. Thank you
you.
so much for coming and taking your time and being willing to talk to people.
Oh, sure. Thank you for having this podcast. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful for other people to learn and hopefully get inspired. And
Yeah, I hope so. Reach out to Valerie, guys. She's got the goods.
thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.